The first week's numbers are in for Daredevil Born Again, and they are absolutely horrendous. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Last Tuesday, the first two episodes for Daredevil Born Again aired on Disney Marvel, bringing back Charlie Cox, bringing back Vincent D'Onofrio, bringing back Karen Page, bringing back Foggy for 5 minutes. And if you want to see my review, check out either Ripping a Silverback from last week or Afternoon Tea with Az this past Sunday, because I wasn't personally impressed with it at all. The TLDR is that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio did all the heavy lifting in terms of the characters. The other characters surrounding them were bland, boring. I don't even know why they're there. I don't even know the motivations of half these characters or why we should care about them. The story plodded along very slowly indeed and needed a bit of a nitrous oxide incision. And other than that, Netflix was taking all the credit for the tone, and what Disney Marvel were bringing to the table so far, I didn't get at all. And this has also been seen in the viewing figures because they are exceptionally low. But before we go into what the numbers of the show are, I just need to bring your attention to another couple of beauties, Ahsoka and the Acolyte. Two absolutely terrible shows indeed that didn't do well in terms of the viewing figures. Just less than a year ago, June of 2024, we had this headline from Variety. And I stress that it's from Variety because when we look at the next headline, you're going to be scratching your heads here. The Acolyte reaches 11.1 million views in 5 days. Nearly 3 million short of the Ahsoka debut. Now, reading that headline, it's clearly leaning that the fact that the Acolyte has not been as popular, I think that's the best way to phrase this, as Ahsoka. And Ahsoka, by the way, did terribly in terms of the viewing figures. Update. Although initially appeared the Acolyte may have had a stronger debut than 2023's Ahsoka, Disney shared that the first episode of its latest Star Wars series reached 11.1 million views in its first 5 days, almost 3 million short of what Ahsoka achieved in the same amount of time. So Ahsoka hit about 14 million in 5 days, and the Acolyte hit 11.1 million in 5 days. Previously, it had been stated that the series had reached 4.8 million views in its first day of availability, but obviously that fell off a cliff massively. Here's just a little graph to show the popularity of the Disney Star Wars shows. You can see that Mando Season 2 and Season 3 are the standouts, but this blue one here is Ahsoka, and this green one here is the Acolyte. Only Andor really joins them in terms of how poorly people actually viewed these shows. But bear in mind that Ahsoka did 14 million views in its first 5 days, and the Acolyte did 11.1 million views in its first 5 days. So how does this translate to how well, or not so well in this case, Daredevil did? Once again, this comes from Variety. Daredevil Born Again launches with 7.5 million views on Disney Plus, and according to the House of Mouse, Daredevil Born Again enjoyed a strong launch, which is absolute bollocks. The Marvel TV series drew 7.5 million views in its first 5 days. So it brought in nearly half the amount that Ahsoka brought in, and it brought in nearly 4 million less than the bloody Acolyte. And just to complete and utterly diminish in any way, shape or form that this was a strong start, In the very next paragraph, they show that Agatha All Along in its first week did 9.3 million views. It seems really hard to comprehend that Agatha actually beat out Daredevil in terms of viewership, but it also really does highlight that superhero fatigue isn't just a myth, it's legit. It's absolutely legit. People are so tired of this now because it's not just an oversaturation of shows, it's an oversaturation of poor shows and poor movies, and they add up to apathy with an audience. Captain America Falcon Black Man is a bomb at the cinema. It doesn't even look like it's going to hit the 400 million mark worldwide. It's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars for Disney, and this was their next big hope. Bearing in mind, of course, this has been renewed already for a season 2, and The Acolyte, for example, which did perform very badly, was cancelled about 2 weeks after the final episode had aired. They were out of that as quickly as they possibly could. It really does seem that people are absolutely done with Marvel now, and with the Russo brothers also putting in an absolutely critically panned bomb recently, it looks like maybe even the Avengers movies are not going to hit anywhere close to where they want to go. And this July, for both DC and Marvel, with Superman and the Fantastic Four releasing, they are really, I think, going to lay the pathway for the future as regards to these types of films. And here, for example, Captain America Brave New World, domestically, $176.469 million. Captain America, the first Avenger from 2011, and this isn't even adjusted for inflation, $176,654,000. This hasn't even managed to pass that yet. Yes, it will this week, but that is how badly it is performing. We're looking at movies that are 14 years apart and are basically on parity with each other right now. And as I mentioned, we haven't even taken inflation into consideration. Once upon a time, a movie like this was the building blocks of the MCU, and right now, this is what's bringing the walls of Jericho down. The only slight ray of sunlight that I can see, but it might be too late in terms of people watching, is that the first few episodes of this Daredevil series are the repurposed shit from the show that got shut down, got the writers all fired, had a completely change of personnel, and then got revamped for the second half. So maybe after a weak start, it's going to significantly improve, but it might just be too late because first impressions last. And if this is people's first impression, a 7.5 million in 5 days, they don't care. Quite frankly, neither do I. I'll see you in the next video. You take care. Bye for now.